Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we are specifically going to talk about B. Dave Walters. Whew, this guy, he is really something special, and I think he did something in D&D Direct that nobody on the planet understood what he was doing except him and now me. All right, so let's get into this. This is, oh my gosh, D&D is just freaking. It's hitting the boosters off the launching pad. Like, D&D has always been the most balled out, dope, full-on winner of the tabletop role-playing game industry. But this year, they are hitting the booster rockets, man. They are flying off the launching pad like nobody's business. In 1 year, right, they're doubling the amount of classic settings they've ever addressed within Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition directly and thoroughly, right? The only real classic setting that we were given, that we were allowed, that we were, permissioned and provisioned by Wizards of the Coast was Ravenloft. And now we're getting Spelljammer and we're getting Dragonlance in 1 year, right? And I'll tell you right now, boy, was it horrible to go through March 2020, but I'm very convinced all of this is happening because March 2020. We would not be getting Spelljammer and Dragonlance right now if it weren't March 2020. And the reason why is I think, we would have had, 3 more books like Radiant, Journey to the Radiant Citadel and like Candlekeep Mysteries if it was just left up to Wizards of the Coast. But they have, Hasbro's like, y'all need to make some money, right? Like, and the classic settings, man, they are going to churn some money. They're gonna really put some money down for Wizards of the Coast. All right, let's talk about what B. Dave Walters did. So, if you don't know who he is, I'll just explain it real quick. B. Dave Walters was one of 2 presenters for D&D Direct, the most successful, the most shocking, the most awesome presentation Wizards of the Coast has. Actually, TSR, Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, any company that's ever owned D&D has ever done. I think it's the most important moment in communication for Wizards of the Coast and for Dungeons and Dragons ever, right? It's really big, right? So it was B. Dave Walters. He is a black male. He is a real dungeon master. He is a good dungeon master. He is, and honestly, I think he is being positioned as the in-house Matthew Mercer, the new face of Dungeons and Dragons, right? He's super smart. He's got presence. I think he's a really fantastic spokesperson for Dungeons and Dragons. He solves a lot of problems for Wizards of the Coast. He's really smart and he's quick on his feet, right? And if you're going to be having somebody who's the face of the brand, right? And they can't use Mercer because Mercer doesn't make decisions, right? Mercer's like, oh, I want to keep being a voice actor. Oh, I want to be the #1 dungeon master in the world, but I can't decide which. Oh, I'm really the lead of Critical Role, but the CEO of Critical Role is Travis Willingham. The idea that Travis Willingham is leading Critical Role, he has the title, he has the authority as leader, but he doesn't have the influence as leader, right? Like, it's just so fascinating. You can't use Mercer because Mercer can't make a decision. He doesn't know what world he wants to live in. He should abandon Hollywood, right? He's a tier 2 voice actor, right? Like, there's like, come on, right? And, but in the Dungeons and Dragons world, he's king, right? Like, he's the best dungeon master that's ever been born, right? Period. End of sentence, right? And now, Mercer, all Wizards of the Coast can trust Mercer on is to do what Mercer does best. Mercer has one job now. Bring in D&D 5e players. Period. End of sentence. That's all CR is. That's all Critical Role is it is a channel for new Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition players. Period. And nothing on this planet has produced more Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition players than Critical Role. Nothing. I defy you to tell me a single source in the comments that has done more to bring in more D&D 5th edition players. So that's what Mercer does. That's his role. He is a horse in Wizards of the Coast stable, but he is a bronco, right? And he has dreams of being out in an open field, right? Like, and going off in his own direction, right? And those dreams alone are what told Wizards of the Coast, y'all cannot rely on Mercer. You got to get your own in-house Mercer, and that is B. Dave Williams. He did something in D&D Direct that is absolutely astounding. Listen to this. What did B. Dave Walters do? He said, hey, everybody, I am a dungeon master, and I'm a dungeon master who loves that old school energy, right? So I'm paraphrasing, but this is where he went. He's like, and you know what I love? I love that D&D then Monstrous Compendium. I think it was D&D Monstrous Compendium. I say it's D&D 1E. If it came out before 1989, it's 1E in my book, right? Other people come and they'll say, oh, it's 2E or it's OD&D or it's AD&D, blah, 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 blah. It's 1E, right? So I'm saying that the Monster Manuals that B. Dave Walters is talking about is specifically, okay, that it is specifically 1E, a D&D 1E. Now, some people might come and go, no, Scott, you're wrong. It's D&D 2nd E. So it's 1E or 2E. It's definitely D&D old school. It's definitely D&D then, right? And so he talked. B. Dave Walters said, I'm a huge fan of my Monstrous Compendium, and I get it out, and I flip through the 3-ring binder, and I look at all the monsters, and I choose what I'm going to run, and I'm so excited about it, and I love it. And guess what? Today, that product continues. All right? B. Dave Walters quite literally said, this product continues, right? And he goes, and you can get your butt over to Wizards of the Coast's, not the D&D site. Get your butt over to D&D Wizards of the Coast site and download this new interest for the Monstrous Compendium, right? And specifically, B. Dave Walters conflated the D&D 1E or 2E, depending on how you count it, Monstrous Manual, the classic Monster Manual, and the new entry, right, which Wizards of the Coast said, Volume 1, right, which is filled with Spelljammer monsters, right, but B. Dave Walters, official representative of Wizards of the Coast, right on stage, D&D Direct. He's actually paid to be a dungeon master by Wizards of the Coast, right? B. Dave Walters said, what you are getting on Wizards of the Coast site today, it can be printed, hole punched, and put at the back of your Dungeons & Dragons 1E or 2E, however you count it, Monstrous Compendium, as new entries into that old product. That is fascinating. And I think the world missed it. I didn't miss it. Right? He was saying, guess what? And I have already done this in my game. And this is what B. Dave Walters is pointing to. I have already told my players, when we play Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, when I run Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, you have the right, privilege, and permission to go back to every single edition of the game, 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E, get anything you want out of those books for your race, class, or background, right? And put it into my game immediately, and I will do the conversion literally on the fly, right? And so they're talking about a multiverse where Eberron is a hop, skibbity, scop, jump away from Arcavio Strixhaven and a hop, skibbity, jump away from Forgotten Realms. I'm telling you that the most dope baller dungeon masters in the world are like, yeah, I run 5E, but you can bring anything you want from 4E, 3E, 2E, 1E, buy the book, put it on the table, show me the content, I will do the conversion live, and you can have anything you want from any edition of Dungeons & Dragons, right? I do it, and B. Dave Walters does it, and he just pointed the whole world that they should do it too in an official Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition event. And people didn't even realize what was happening, right? Now they have an excuse because so much happened in that event, and it took me 3 days to get here. And I want you guys to realize, I do 10 to 25 videos a week, and I cannot even remotely get to all the concepts and ideas I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And Nerd Immersion is talking about this too. D&D has reached, full velocity. And it is moving so fast that no single commentator can even remotely cover all the ideas that are exciting about it. Boy, oh boy, I am absolutely so enamored with B. Dave Walters as the new face of Dungeons & Dragons and his absolute, presenter agency saying, oh, I know what Wizards of the Coast planned. But I'm pointing you to the higher level, baby. I'm pointing you to that 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E, 5E crazy time dungeon mastering, right? That 4 people on the earth are doing right now, right? But he's like, I'm the thing. I run it all, right? And I will mix between the editions like it's nothing, because I am a deity on this earth when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, right? And boy, do I feel what he's saying. And I'm just so excited that the whole world is starting to go, oh my gosh, Scott was right. D&D is way more than a game, and there's so much to cover. This is becoming like a news spike, right? Like, it's huge, and it's happening, and there's so much going on, it's hard to even track all the facets of it. It's absolutely fascinating. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Do you do this? Do you allow material from D&D 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E, 5E into your 5E game because you're a balled out awesome dungeon master like me and like B. Dave Walters? Or are you like, no, I just want to roll one, run one. I don't allow that kind of craziness because I'd have to do the work on the fly and it's frightening. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.